Going live. You're live with a delay.
Go to all ears.
Cool. So, hi world. Okay, I'm trying some different software today, so I'm not exactly sure what's going on. All very discombobulating, to be honest. So anyway, okay, I'm hoping that, I'm so sorry, I know so many people have been trying to follow and the streaming has just not been good enough and it's been cutting out. So even the recordings, sadly, have got truncated, they've got gaps in them. So I'm hoping that today's new system is gonna make it a more fluid experience for everybody watching. And welcome, thanks for joining me. Yeah, as before, let me know tech-wise what it's like, and also feedback. Just be in touch with me. That's always lovely. So just for anybody who's joining new today, as always, this is really my kind of hybrid practice, drawing a lot from Feldenkrais, sometimes a bit of Pilates for a bit of contrast, but generally me just developing movement sequences and explorations, and really it's an invitation. Just take it as a structure within which you can play according to your own needs and your own curiosity and your own body and your own current state of being in the world. So if, for example, I just give some examples because I think there can be, when you're sort of following along with something, it's quite easy to feel a pressure to do what the person you can see practicing is doing. But this whole system, very much taken from Feldenkrais, this whole idea is really to get rid of like the idea of like teacher as guru, get rid of that idea, and just use this as an invitation. What I'm doing isn't necessarily correct. It's just what I'm able to do right now and what's interesting me right now. So if, for example, it's just a clear example, if I start doing press-ups and you think, ooh, that doesn't feel good, well, don't do it. If, on the other hand, I'm in a position where I'm exploring the kind of physicality of a press-up, but I'm not actually just doing some press-ups, and you think, I really just want to do some press-ups right now, then just do it. And equally, again, also very much like Feldenkrais, take a rest whenever you want. So I'll be putting rests in as I go. But really, it's up to you just to pause, rest as you like. And if you want to just go off and do your own thing, that's wonderful. And if you want to really follow me and try to do as I do, then you're really welcome. And I'll be doing certain things for long enough that you can hopefully go away from the video, try something for yourself, and just check in with me on the screen every now and again. So I'll kind of progress slowly and do things for long enough that hopefully you don't have to be dependent on watching your screen all the time. Cool. Okay. So to start with, I've got my just in case alarm preset today at 4:40, and we'll finish 4:45, 4:50, depending on what's going on. So generally it's about 45 minutes. So have a lie down, hooray! Just start by lying down. Yes, and I talk in the first person, or at least I try to. So I'm going to talk it through for myself and just invite you to take that as if it's your own internal monologue, and I'm talking it through for yourself. So I'm lying down. And I'm just closing my eyes. Letting go. What does letting go mean to me right now? Sometimes you'll hear sound effects from the other room. So just taking some time to land on the ground and release whatever I can so that I can already gradually feel my muscles giving way to gravity. I just let my attention drift to start with. I'm interested in seeing what comes, what takes my attention. What do I give my attention to? And I just register those things for myself. Some things are outside in the environment, the sound, the air temperature I can feel coming through the window, the light. Some things are in my mind, my thinking. And some things are in my body, my physical senses. My more internal senses. I have my eyes open or closed as I like. So sometimes I just have them open, sometimes I have them closed. Shifting intentionally every now and again just to let myself settle. The whole time I'm just going to be using my own comfort, my own curiosity as a guide. I notice certain parts of my body. I notice little bits of pain or discomfort. I notice little bits of movement. Just the movement that happens involuntarily as long as I'm alive. A little bit of movement of the breath coming in and out. I notice my own volume, my own three-dimensionality. I scan my whole body as a kind of soft focus. I try to keep a soft focus with my eyes. So I'm almost a little bit spaced out, regardless of whether my eyes are open or closed. I just have this soft focus, almost like my peripheral vision, rather than a kind of pinpoint focus. And then I take my attention specifically to my contact with the floor. I try to sense what my contact with the floor can tell me about my own alignment, my own self-organization, where I have a little bit more weight, where I have less weight, where I'm pressing into the floor, where I'm melting into the floor, where I'm lightly lifted away from the floor, or where I'm holding myself away from the floor with a certain amount of tension. And all of those things are just possibilities for myself. I don't have to have answers necessarily. I test out a little rolling of my head, going side to side, without any pressure, without any intention to go evenly in both directions. It's just a test to find out which way I can roll my head more comfortably with the least effort. I'm not pushing past any grain of resistance. So for me today, that means that my head rolls one way quite smoothly. If I go the other way, it doesn't really want to go that way, so I don't push it, I just accept that. I still have the intention of rolling both ways, but I only do what's possible without any effort. And then I relax and rest again. And then I just bring my feet up to standing and resettle. I just want to make myself a little bit more comfortable, so I resettle. Both my feet are in standing. I notice my contact with the floor now. I roll my head again. I just test what's that like with my feet in standing. No change for me. Just the same. I pay attention to the contact of my torso, my shoulders, my ribs, my back, my pelvis. Contact of my arms with the floor. And then I lengthen both of my legs, and again I just see what does that do to my contact. I know that something's changed because I wasn't touching my bed with my left foot before, and now I am. So it's slightly changed what's going on with my legs already, because now my left leg is definitely a little longer. I just take my attention again to the back of the body, and then I do that a little bit swifter. A couple more times, I just bring my legs to standing, make myself comfortable, and then pay attention to what my contact of the floor is like. And then I lengthen my legs, and then notice what changes. And I just do it again, maybe a couple more times. Every time I do it, it's just like an invitation to let go. Let go again, another invitation to let go, another invitation to let go. Let go and notice. The contact of my body with the floor helps me accept the support of the floor a little more maybe each time. I'm never looking for anything correct, I'm just looking for what's comfortable. And then I just finish with my knees bent and my feet standing. And then I roll over and I lie on my belly. So as I'm going to lie on my belly, it's a little, which way? I'm going to put my head this way and my feet that way. So I just lie on my belly and I have my head and arms wherever it's comfortable. And again, to start with, I just notice. I notice which way I turned my head without thinking about it. I just turned my head one way. I notice how I put my arms without thinking about it. I organized myself in such a way. I notice my contact with the floor now. I notice how the contact with the floor is different from when I was lying on my back. How is my sense of my own three-dimensionality different? And I see, could I make myself any comfier? I just wanted to move my head a little bit to make myself comfier. I want to wriggle my chest a little bit to make myself comfier. And I just settle here lying on my belly. And then I begin a small movement of just taking one foot. So I have the tops of my toes on the floor. I don't have my toes tucked under and my feet flexed. Instead, I have my feet long, my ankles long, and the tops of my toes with the toenails on the floor. And from there, I just choose one leg and I
roll that leg a little bit so that my heel in the air goes left and right. So my foot remains on the floor all the time, but I just take my heel a little side to side, just one heel, side to side. It's a really small, gentle movement, and I see what does that do to the whole length of my leg. As I take my heel side to side, can I do that in such a lazy way that it's just soft and pleasurable? There's no effort. It's like I'm inviting a kind of melting of the muscles up the back of the leg, around the hip. I'm letting my belly squidge out onto the ground. And then I leave that movement of the foot. I just register for myself which foot I chose to start with. And then I test the other foot. And I don't expect them to be the same. I'm looking to one side. So it's like I have a front leg and a back leg. So I test out the other leg. What does it feel like to roll the heel side to side? The tops of my toes are on the floor. I can feel my heel moving through space. And as my heel moves a little left and right, that moves my lower leg and my upper leg. And I'm really doing it in such a lazy way, and I'm only changing anything if it's to make myself more comfortable, if it's to make the movement more easy and pleasurable for myself. I just accept that my legs are different. And then I rest. And then I change my head, so I turn my head to look the other way, and I just make myself comfortable looking the other way. I can do whatever I want with my arms, as long as I'm comfortable. And I just choose one foot to do the same little exploration, taking the heel side to side. I notice how different it feels with my head turned this way. I listen as I take my heel side to side. I listen to how that little movement of taking my heel side to side travels up my leg and moves my whole leg. And then I'm looking for evidence of that movement even in my pelvis. And then I give that a rest. And then I test the second leg. I take my heel side to side. I notice how it is on the other side with my head facing this way and the other leg. And then I just rest and I roll over to lie on my back to rest. And I lie with my arms and legs long again. And I notice my contact with the floor. And I just generally get a sense of myself after that little exploration, lying on my belly. And then I roll back and I lie on my belly again. And I make myself comfortable lying on my belly. And I turn my head whatever way I want. And I make myself comfortable with my arms. And I pick one leg and I start to just lift that foot just a millimetre off the floor. And I try to keep my ankle and my foot soft so that as I start to lift my heel in the air, my foot drags behind. I can feel my toenails scraping on the ground. And I do that many times, and I'm just looking for where do I want my heel in space to make this movement of slightly lifting my foot away from the floor as easy as possible. I'm listening to the tension in the back of my leg, in the back of my calf and thigh. And I'm doing many, many, many tiny little variations of direction to look for nothing like what's correct. I'm not thinking about any kind of correct alignment. I'm just looking for where is it easiest for me to lift my foot away from the floor. I'm testing lots of different little possibilities about the direction of the foot. And I'm lifting it and lowering it. And gradually, I start to find a line of direction for the lifting of the foot that feels comfortable, feels easiest for my own musculature in the back of the leg. And then I've managed to bend my knee and bring my foot up towards the ceiling. And I start to take my foot side to side. And as I take my foot side to side, I notice, am I rolling my pelvis at the same time? And I try a version where I stop my pelvis from rolling, so I'm just taking my foot side to side. Just lightly trying to stop my pelvis from rolling, not too much effort. So then that's a movement just of the hip joint. And then I let my pelvis roll again so that my foot can go side to side and my foot can make a bigger arc in space if my pelvis also is allowed to roll. And as my pelvis rolls, I let my belly be soft. I let my back be soft. I let my jaw be soft. I let my thighs and knees wriggle on the floor. I don't try and repeat anything necessarily, I just try lots of different versions. And then I take a rest, just resting, lazy. And then I turn my head the other way and I do the other leg. I begin by picking my foot up off the floor. So lazy to start with that my foot doesn't even actually lift. I don't even make it. I put in so little effort that I don't actually manage to lift my foot. I just begin. I just shift according to my comfort. I have my head turned the other way and I'm now lifting my other leg. And I'm just starting to lift the foot off the floor. I'm trying to leave my ankle soft and my toes soft. And all the time I can just wriggle my heel side to side like I did right at the beginning to soften my leg. And I can look for different alignment in the hip. I can wiggle my pelvis. Everything is just soft and melty. My belly is squidging into the ground. Gradually I find that I'm able to bend my knee all the way up. And I do it a few times. I just lengthen my leg and then bend my knee. And then I take a little rest. And I do the same thing again on the same side. So I'm still looking to my second side and I'm still bending my second knee. And now I keep my knee bent and I keep my foot pointing towards the ceiling. And I start to take my foot side to side. I notice if my pelvis moves. A few times I just stop my pelvis from moving. I place my forehead on the floor so that I can draw my tummy muscles in and stop my pelvis from moving as I take my foot side to side. I can feel more of an effort in my glutes, in my butt muscles. I can feel more of an effort in my chest and my belly. I'm trying to stop my pelvis from moving, and I'm just moving in the hip joint as I take my foot side to side. And then I release all of the effort, and I just take my foot side to side. I turn my head back to the side, and I let my pelvis roll. And I make it as lazy and luxurious as I can. And I let my belly go. And I turn my head the other way, but keep going with the same leg. And I wriggle against the ground a little bit and squidge around, and my face is nice and squidgy. Perfect for camera. And then I take a rest. And I roll back onto my back to take a full rest. And I'm lying with my arms and legs long, so I've come back to the position I started in. So that I can notice again how I'm feeling now, what's coming into my attention. I can notice my self-organization, the contact with the floor, my alignment. How easy or not it is to let go in different places now. And I just revisit rolling my head and I see how that feels now. So for me today, I'm not feeling my contact with the floor change quite so much as other days. But my head rolling is much smoother now. You just got to take what you can get. So I roll my head and I think, oh, that's nice. And then I rest again. And then I bend my knees and I roll to lie on my belly again. It doesn't matter which way I have my head, but I just take my head to one side and I make myself comfortable again with my arms. And now I keep both legs long and the tops of the feet, so still the toenails on the floor, and I take both heels side to side. And I make it smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And I make it smaller and faster. I'm trying to get rid of any effort. As soon as I feel, that was a bit of effort for my back, I just stop and I pause and make myself more comfortable again. I needed to adjust my chest on the floor. And then I start again this slow side-to-side action of my heels. The side-to-side action of my heels. I'm really trying not to go to my end of range. Just a couple of times I go as far as I can. I take my heels as far as I can one way, and then I take my heels as far as I can the other way, just to feel what is my end of range actually. If I just go softly and slowly a couple of times, how far can I take my heel side to side? What is my end of range? And then I back off and I go, okay, what if I could just do less and less and less and less and make it smaller and smaller and smaller? And I make it so small that maybe I'm doing just a tiny, tiny fraction of what I know I can do. But it means that softly I can make it faster and faster and faster, and I can take my heels left and right, left and right, left and right, boom, 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 until I feel that I can go so fast that there's an oscillation going up through my spine, and I can feel not just my heels going side to side, and not just my legs going rolling side to side, but also my pelvis, and a little oscillation going up through my spine. And I try to listen. How much can this little oscillation pass from my heels up my spine? I relax my jaw. I feel my shoulder blades sliding against my ribs as my ribs roll against the ground. Sometimes I lose the coordination with my feet, and my feet start going in and out at the same time instead of side to side, and I just think, hang on a minute, I'm supposed to be well coordinated. Why does that happen? And I just pause and I start again. And I just let myself turn into jelly. Or jello, depending on where you are in the world. Jelly or jello pudding. I really want to be jello. Left, right, left, right, left, right. This oscillation goes up through my legs until I feel my ribs squidging against the ground. See if I can learn anything about the bony structure of the front of my rib cage. Wow, I give up. I give up for a moment. I'm going to do the same thing with my head turned the other way. And then I rest again and just chill out. And then I come back. This time I bring up both my hands somewhere near where my forehead is going to go on the floor. And if it's comfier, I can even put my hands on the floor like hand, hand, forehead. And then my nose doesn't squidge against the ground. I think I'm going to do that today. Hand, hand, forehead. And then I bend both my feet, one at a time. My feet, my knees. And I take my feet side to side, very gently. And I only do what's possible, and I'm not trying to find my limit. I'm just following my curiosity, my pleasure. I'm trying to let my belly be soft and squidge into the ground. I'm trying to let my chest be soft and collapse. I move my head as however I want. I turn my head to one side and I keep going just very gently, gently, taking my feet side to side. And I notice that with my head turned side to side, what's possible with my legs changes. So I'm never expecting anything. I'm just seeing what's possible without pushing. Even if I think I know, I try and get rid of my assumptions. And I keep going, but I turn my head the other way. I see what's possible on this side with my head turned this way.
And I take a rest, and I roll to lie on my back again to rest. And I notice how I'm making contact with the floor. And I roll my head again and I see how that feels. And I'm always just practicing this awareness, this kind of light touch awareness. And I roll over again and I'm back on my belly. And I bring my hands up again, somewhere near my forehead. And I have my forehead on my hands or on the floor. And I bend both my knees again and I bring my feet towards the ceiling but with my knees on the ground. And I take my feet one way and then the other. And I try to really give in. I use this as a way of letting my chest, all of the muscles in my chest to open up. That doesn't mean stretch. It just means give in. And I start to feel, as I take my feet one way, I can start to lift my top leg off the floor. And then I can bring it back. And I take my feet the other way and I can lift my other leg off the floor. And I just go very slowly to see what's possible. And I'm all the time letting my hands, my arms, and my head adapt. So I'm exploring. There are infinite possibilities. Where do I want my head? Where do I want my hands? So that I can start to lengthen or lift one foot off the floor. Sometimes I just do it, tiny movement. Sometimes I keep my head on the floor, facing the same direction. Sometimes my feet come together and my feet stroke my legs. And sometimes my legs come apart. And I rest whenever I want. And actually I'm just rolling onto my side to rest in a little fetus position. So when I lie on my belly and I start lifting one leg off the floor, it means I'm opening up the front of my hip joint and it means I'm starting to work more into the glutes in the back of the hip, the back of the pelvis. And when I start to go a little bit further, that means that I start to work in my back a little bit more and get some extension in my back. So I do all of it gently. I come back to lie on my belly and I revisit it. Bending both legs, taking them side to side, varying where my head goes, letting my belly be soft. And starting to lift one leg off the floor, and I'm really using my feet as a lever. And I see where can it take me. I can tip my feet, and then that tips my pelvis. And where can it take me? And I just explore, trying to stay soft in the chest.
And it can take me up to sitting,
to side sitting.
But all the time I'm varying it so that I don't just get stuck doing one thing. I don't get stuck making assumptions. Whoops, I accidentally rolled over. All the time the base movement is lying on my belly, taking my feet side to side. And for a little bit more work in the back of my hips, I start to push one foot at a time up to the ceiling, just very lightly. I'm using the muscles in the back of my hip, but I'm trying to just find what's possible without strain. I keep changing my head and changing my arms and just doing what's possible and listening to my own comfort. And I want a little bit more work in the glutes. So I start to push both knees off the floor at the same time. I'm pushing the soles of my feet up to the ceiling and using my glutes to lift my feet. And I try the Pilates version of that where I have to draw my belly in and keep my lower back long, and I can't bend my back. I have to draw my belly in, and then I let go and I let my belly out like a baby, pushing my belly into the floor, pushing my belly. Then I pull my bottom up away from the floor and I push my belly into the floor. And I'm working in my back and my hips, and I'm always just looking for what's okay for my back. I take a rest. I've had my feet in the air for long enough. I just let myself squidge into the ground. Best camera face. It's like being filmed sleeping, to be honest. I might as well start dribbling. I take my heels side to side again. Whee! And I feel how the oscillation passes up through my spine now. I'm going left, right, left, right, left, right, and I'm really feeling my ribs wiggle now, and I'm really feeling my head also being moved. So just by going left, right with my heels, I'm now feeling how soft my chest is, how melted I am, how much the force can pass up through my body to my head. I try it with my head turned in both directions. Not both directions at once, just one direction at a time. And then I come up onto my low elbows and I just start to look around like a little baby, and I let my feet move in the air like a little baby, and I let my curiosity, look, I can see my foot, I can tap my feet together, and all the things I can do, wow. Complex things I can do. So I'm just trying to take this little spirit of a baby to see where I can go, to see what's possible. I also want to rest my back a bit, so I do that by coming into the child's pose. And I'm just using all of these variations of being belly down. So my belly stays down facing the floor, but I can use my arms a bit more. Now that my ribs are mobilized, I can roll around on my hands. So if I want to just keep it really small, I can just rest my forehead on the floor and rest my back in the child's pose. Or I can just keep my belly on the ground
and look around, let my belly squidge out. Be like a baby with a big head. Baby pushes its belly and its pelvis into the floor to make its head light. I try and think of myself as having a giant head like a baby. But I can keep it as small as I want. Maybe I just regress to a previous developmental stage where I'm only just starting to lift my head and lift my feet. And lifting my head and my feet takes me into a little swan dive, little Pilates swan dive. Only if it feels good. And drawing my belly in. Using my arms. I take my pelvis off the floor. I rest again in a child's pose. So I'm really just exploring things that are possible belly down. And finally just finishing a last go at being belly down. Coming back to taking the legs side to side, but this time with my hands under my shoulders. So my starting position is forehead on the floor, hands under my shoulders with my elbows in a kind of grasshopper position. I relax my body as much as I can. And I bend both my knees and I just move my head to wherever it's more comfortable. Just because I'm speaking, it's more comfortable to have my head lifted. And I take my feet side to side. And I feel now that I've got these amazing hands on the floor that I can use. And I just play with what's possible now that I've got these strong hands on the floor. So I'm still using my legs as a lever. Maybe I get some little kind of press up action. I can move my pelvis. I can do whatever variation I want. Maybe it's just taking the feet side to side and pushing and pushing and pushing. Different variations. And then I rest in child's pose. And to finish, I just come to standing. And I close my eyes in standing and I see what it feels like to be vertical. I open my eyes because I want to. I feel my own height, my own volume. I feel the contact of my feet with the floor. I feel the length of my spine. So for me today, for some reason, I feel incredibly still. I'm very, almost like a suspension. So I'm not really tempted to start moving, but just switching out of first person just to remind you, if you're participating, that really just do what you want. If you want to take it into a little movement exploration, if you want to walk, please do. I'm just going to go with my own stillness because that's what I'm feeling right now. And then because I have to end the stream, I take a little walk. And I notice I'm still practicing that way of being able to take in the space around me as well as listening to my own body, that kind of dual consciousness, internal focus, external focus. And I feel my soft feet against the floor. And then I say, thank you. I think maybe I'm running a little bit late. I'm a little bit confused about the streaming timing, as I'm running with a delay, an intentional delay. So I'm kind of a bit all over the place. So I apologize if I'm running late. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining. Feel free to message any questions or any requests if you have certain things going on and you want me to include certain explorations into the practice. I'm always bringing in loads of things and there's infinite things to explore. So really happy to be responsive as well to messages from people.